Welcome to the Good People podcast. Today I have
Good
Tony
morning.
Watkins.
Welcome to Judaism Today with your host, Carl.
Yes, we would like to begin with a short introduction to the Talmud, and I defer now to the expertise of Rabbi Tony Watkins of Columbus Avenue in Manhattan. Tony? Impeach. Yes, I agree. I totally agree. Tony, you're sideways.
Well, that you told me to use the phone. Otherwise,
that's so much better. That's so much better. And you're in control of your environment. This is about you, Tony.
Well, Carl, that's wonderful of you to say that. Unfortunately, I'd like you to know that I'm not completely in control of my environment. I don't know where you got that idea, but I'm actually not totally in control of the environment. Actually, Carl, you may not be aware of this, but the environment is a very complicated thing, which I'm not in control of.
Can I do a brief introduction to you?
Yes.
Okay. And you can interrupt to add information or correct me.
Can I interrupt to change my eyewear?
Sure. So Tony Watkins is someone I met. He's from New York, as I am. We met in what's called the Goshiwon in South Korea, somewhere around 2003. Tony is now an acupuncture specialist. He works in the Bronx. And when I knew him, we were, for lack of a better description, English teachers. I often tell people that Tony is impossible to get into a fight with. He's the most copacetic and one of the most kind people I know on the planet. Tony, what can you tell us about yourself?
Well, I can tell you that I take objection to everything you just said. And I'm deeply offended. And I'm prepared to debate you on every topic that you just brought up for the next hour. Is this a 1 hour long show?
If you have the time. Are we changing eyewear?
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not. So what are we going to discuss? Most of what you said is true. I do sometimes work in the Bronx. I also have an office that I work out of in Manhattan.
Well, introduce yourself as you would see fit, Tony, if you don't mind. And then we can talk about whatever you like. Politics, art, acupuncture, Korea. Tony is fluent in Mandarin Chinese. And he's also quite adept with glasses acrobatics.
Actually, Carl, you're mistaken. I'm actually fluent in Mandarin Polish. You've only thought it was Mandarin.
You also speak fish talk, don't you? You taught me.
I'm surprised that you remember. Well, no, everything that you said was true. It's evening in Japan, but it's kind of early in the morning here in New York City, so I'm not really sure what else to say about myself, but everything that you said was true, and I've been looking forward to this interview for some time.
Wow, thank you. I'm flattered to hear that. Unlike, when hanging out with me, I try to talk less in these interviews. So I'm not here to challenge you. I'm here to have you present yourself. And the reason you're on the Good People podcast is I want to present to the world friends of mine who are otherwise unknown to the public, but maybe should be, because I think you're a great influence on the world. You're a good guy, Tony.
I try to be a good guy. I don't really understand the motivation of other people who are trying to be bad guys. That doesn't seem to make much sense. I do think, and I have been thinking about this a lot lately, that we all have the same, or a lot of us have the same or very similar impulses and desires and thoughts and needs and cravings. And there just tends to be healthy ways to express them and pathological ways to express them. So for instance, it may be a healthy expression of our natural violent instincts to play first-person shooter video games and read, novels and watch movies that have a lot of violence and killing in them, maybe. And it's obviously a pathological way to express these desires by actually going out and shooting up churches and mosques and synagogues. But maybe there's a healthy way to express them through entertainment and games and, whatever else people are into nowadays. So that's just one example of how to be a good guy while expressing some of those instincts. That's just my thought for the morning.
I feel that people have to express those things, but they can, according to their psychology or upbringing or matter of choice, they can choose a pathological way or a healthy way.
Right. I don't know if we all have to, and those instincts can be related to sex, relationships, violence, whatever, all these ways that people tend to behave badly. There almost always seems to be other avenues and other ways to express those things. Just my thought for the morning, just something I've been thinking about a little bit lately.
Well, let me take 10 seconds to validate it. I was having this same thought recently. I actually thought these things that we see in the world that are undesirable, a lot of us have these same, at least thoughts, if not impulses.
And your 10 seconds is up. Oh, but did you need more? I was counting.
No, that's all I want to say.
I'm just kidding. Now I interrupted you. I'm sorry. That was
no, it's good. I want to keep my speech to the minimum in these things. I should also mention to the audience that you majored in psychology before you went to the School of Oriental Medicine, correct?
Well, I may have taken some psychology classes when I was in college.
Like I majored in art and then
I wouldn't say that I majored in it.
Okay.
I did actually wind up majoring in education and language teaching and language acquisition and language learning and language foreign and language domestic and language, etc.
Before we segue into that, which I'd like to do, because that'll also open the door to your experience of culture, because you were in Mongolia too, right? I just want to say, what inspired you to talk about our impulses today? Because that's very interesting to me.
I just woke up. I drank some coffee and haven't had any breakfast yet.
I was just going to say, you should.
No, I don't know. It's something I've been thinking about lately. Maybe it's related to some books I've read. Maybe it's related to some people I've spoken to. But maybe it's related to things I've been talking about in my experience with my therapist. I don't know. But it's just something that I've been thinking about lately. And then it's related to you talking about Good People podcast or whatever, your idea of trying to weed out the good from the bad people.
I see. Oh, that's an interesting take on it. What are you reading lately? Tony is also an avid reader. Would you agree?
Well, I would agree. And I'm reading the anthology of Japanese short stories, which is edited by Jay Rubin, or translated or edited and introduced by him. He's the translator who translates a lot of Murakami's book and the books. And then I'm reading a John Fante novel, which I just lent to someone, so I don't have it. And now I actually traded it with someone because both of us were in the middle of a book and we decided to trade books that we were in the middle of. And now I'm reading Play It As It Lays by Joan Didion.
Oh.
What? Joan Didion.
I've never read Joan Didion. I should have, shouldn't I?
I think you should have, and I think I would like to make an attempt to read more books written by women, or at the very least, less books written by old dead white men.
What was the one that you recommended? Viktor Frankl to me when I was still in the States.
Yep, he's wonderful. He is an old dead white man, and John Fante is also an old dead white man.
Excuse me.
And Carl, guess what? You will be one day.
What? An old dead white man?
Yes.
I actually don't like to
You're
refer to
guess what?
color.
You're 2/3 of the way there already.
Yes, I know. I've been telling people I'm in the last quarter of my life, and I'm really thinking a lot about it lately.
No, you're not old. You're white and dead. No, you are white and old. That's true.
Tony, you were somebody who actually on the New York City subway encouraged me not to refer to people's color. And it wasn't so much because of that, though I was impressed with that. But I try not to refer to it anymore. But in the context of our conversation, I fully get you, dude. Can you talk about your language experience, your travel experience, life in Korea, China?
No.
Okay. What would you like to talk about?
No, I could talk about it. I'm just not sure what to say because
well, maybe I can help you along. I was always impressed with your fluency in Mandarin.
Yes, but I don't want to. But I don't want to actually have to demonstrate it on the podcast now.
No, I wouldn't ask you to. But how did you become so fluent? Did you study really hard, or was it immersion? Was it both?
Well, I would say it was both. My message to people who are going to a foreign country and thinking that they're going to learn a new language by immersion and osmosis alone is that it's not going to work. That you study and you do have to get a little bit of a, at least a little bit of a kind of foundation before you let the osmosis kick in. So yes, the foundation of what I learned and how I, acquired language skills came from going to school in a university with a teacher and a classroom and a textbook and exams and stuff like that. And then from there, you can hang out with the street vendors and play cards and drink alcohol with your neighbors and stay up all night and chat with taxi drivers and waiters and people like that and get better and better and better. But without the foundation, I found from my experience when we lived in Korea, years and years and years of living in Korea, and I'm incapable of having a conversation with someone in Korean, that's for sure.
I find it difficult too, and I work with Korean people here in Tokyo. What was the inspiration to learn Mandarin?
I think the initial inspiration might have been the cool factor.
Okay.
As you can see.
Tony is also a bodybuilder.
I take being cool very seriously. Can
I mention your alma mater?
Yes, although Sing
New York
doesn't usually. Yes, you can mention my alma mater.
So you went to Stuyvesant, right?
Yes, back in the olden days when it was in the old building back in the 1980s.
Yeah.
I just told someone what year I was born in, and a younger person, and when they calculated that meant that I was a teenager and growing up in the 1980s, they became very jealous.
Oh, why is that, do you think?
I don't know. They said, that's their their dream decade to grow up in. They were born at the end of the 80s, and they said, oh my God, you're so lucky. I'm so jealous. You got to be in high school or be a teenager during the 1980s.
It was a cool time, right?
I get if you wanted to get mugged.
Or if you wanted to worry about a Russian invasion.
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of a little bit surprised, that it was viewed as being so cool as compared to the decade afterwards, However,
I thought it was cool. Go ahead. Sorry.
And for you, Carl, actually getting to grow up and develop in the swinging 60s, I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, man. Like I was at Woodstock and I was hanging out at Haight-Ashbury.
Yeah.
No, I was born in 1966. So I came of age in 1980. I was 14. And if somebody else does this podcast with me eventually, one of my other friends from growing up, he might be able to commiserate that he told me about John Lennon's death within our first week of school in high school. And I didn't know who John Lennon was. Like, I didn't know which Beatle he was.
Right. I don't remember this, but my friend told me that when John Lennon died, we must have been in the fourth grade, I guess.
Oh, wow.
Correctly. And he came in and with a cassette deck and played John Lennon and for the class. I don't remember this, but one of my friends from elementary school told me that he did this.
Are you that much younger than I am? He died in 1980.
So in 1980, I was 9 years old. So
wow.
I was in fourth grade.
Wow. Yeah, I was 14, I think. Yeah. Yeah. What's the most exciting place you've ever lived?
The most exciting place I've ever lived, maybe is I lived on Avenue B and 3rd Street.
Alphabets.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I only lived really in New York. I lived in San Francisco for a month and a half when I was in my 20s. I don't think that counts. That was more an extended visit. And then I lived in Seoul and in Beijing. And then I lived in 2 other cities in China, but only briefly for 5-6 months.
Was Beijing the best?
The best? No, the best place in the world to live?
No, China. In China.
No, I lived in Kunming, and that was a much more interesting city, much better weather, and a kind of a smaller city, even though I think there's 6 or 8 million people that live there. A much better place to live, I think. If I had to do it again and go move to some foreign country, I think it's more interesting to live in the smaller city. If you were going to move to America from another country, I'm not sure why you'd want to live in New York necessarily, although New York is a great place to live. But it might be more interesting to live in a smaller place than New York. Like Portland.
Why do you think you say that because you're so used to New York? Maybe it's passé for you.
I mean, I think that I say that because I've heard podcasts before, and you're just supposed to say kind of insightful, counterintuitive things. New York is like the city of immigrants, so of course I'm going to say that if you're an immigrant, don't come here. Go to Portland, Oregon. I don't know. I think you might be able to find different types of connections with people if you live in a smaller, hopefully more liberal city. I'm not saying that it would be wonderful to live anywhere in America or any small city. Some of them, I guess, are kind of depressed or depressing, but yeah, I think you'll maybe have a better quality of life if you live somewhere like San Diego or Portland, as long as you can afford it and have a job.
It was really interesting when you were going on about your ideas about psychology and people's expression of violence or whatever. Do you have any other pressing ideas or hypotheses about psychology, life, how to live a good life? I've always been intrigued by how you seem to be very cool running. You're a very smooth living guy. I've never known you to be very upset, except the time I think you told me you jumped in front of a guy on a motorcycle on the sidewalk in Gangnam. You're always cool, Tony. So, like, have you always been that way, or was there something that changed your life? Is it things that you've read? Is it religion, philosophy, your parents? Is it being a New Yorker?
Interesting. I don't have a hypothesis. I have a hypotenuse, though. I don't know if you're aware of it, Carl, but
G-rated. This is a G-rated podcast.
I have written and published a book of haiku called Landmarks, a book of haiku.
I need my poet glasses.
Wait, you read this book, Carl, right?
This isn't working. I got to get my regular glasses. Hold on.
Well, it's not particularly important that you see this, right?
No, I haven't read that, Tony. Rush me off a copy.
I wrote this book 3 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry. Bony Landmarks, a book of haiku by Tony Basho Watkins. No, that's a joke.
This is a book of haiku that I wrote, and my friend Dusty, who's an animator, provided.
I know Dusty.
Yeah, drawings, and we took his stills from his animations and we presented them in 3 different perspectives, like each one in 3 perspectives. So it forms a kind of a visual haiku, and then I wrote the haiku, which is obviously 3 lines. And most of the haiku I wrote when I published the book 3 years ago, but some of them, about 7 or 10 of them, are from 2002 when I first moved to Korea, where I met Carl. And I showed the book to someone recently, and as they were reading them, they kind of expressed, they analyzed the ones that I wrote recently, the ones that I wrote in 2002, and there was a lot more angst and frustration and stuff in the ones from 2002. So I don't think I've always been the way you're describing. I used to obviously be a, more angsty young dude. But I think that a lot of, how did you describe me? Cool, calm, what did you say?
Cool running. You seem to always have good advice when someone else is in crisis. You seem not to be in crisis. There doesn't seem to be much drama surrounding you.
Crisis and drama is the correct word, yeah. I think the key is once you don't have any crisis or drama surrounding the most important basic things, such as rent and income and that kind of stuff, there's no reason for there to be more drama. Now, some people will then create more drama, right? But for some reason, once I figured out the way to not have any crises in my life about those things, there's no drama, there's no crises. So again, I don't know why people would create more drama in their life when they have those things figured out.
Right.
Unless you have health problems. Health problems maybe could be another crisis.
Sure. Yeah, like something pathological, right? So can you tell us about the work that you do now? Oh, I would actually, before we move on, would you like to treat us to one of your haiku? Would you read 1 or 2 or however many you like?
I'll read one that's in the, I wish I'd prepared for this.
Well, we can have you on here again. I'm sure it's going to be a smash. You're a very interesting guy to listen to.
Okay, here's one that maybe is kind of an amalgam of the me now and the me then and the whatever.
Before you proceed,
yes,
just for people who might be listening who aren't familiar with haiku, would you want to introduce it in a short definition of your own?
No.
Okay.
There's people listening to this that aren't familiar with haiku. Even though I wrote a book of haiku, I don't feel as if I'm expert enough to explain it, because I don't even think haiku is the correct word that we're supposed to be using for this type of poetry.
Right. Okay. Okay. Go ahead, dude.
Okay. The moon is honey. I'm forever and ever just a little boy.
I like it.
I like it too. I do think that this type of poetry works better when you read it to yourself as opposed to having someone read it to you, but I did my best.
You think so?
Yeah, I think this kind of poetry is more about, just silently and with contemplation, just kind of and chilling out. And that's why if you read a book of haiku and there's no commentary on each of the poems, then it's kind of hard to figure out what the hell's going on. If there's commentary, it makes it much more interesting because the poems themselves are so short.
So would I be correct in assuming that you're the kind of writer and reader who has respect for the reader's interpretation of what is being conveyed rather than having it foisted on somebody like shallow Hollywood movies as opposed to, say, a Fellini film or something?
Yes, but I also enjoy literature that's very manipulative of the reader. But I guess that's also open to, you know, how you interpret it and stuff.
I was just listening to a Sam Harris podcast 2 days ago, and he had a poet on, I think for the first time. And this man was talking about how he prefers to read to people. And he goes so far as to read a line 3 times because he says people sometimes take in a line before they even know what it means. They're moving on to the next line. So I really like what you said, but I could see both sides.
Yeah, and I enjoy reading out loud. And in fact, I even, it helps me fall asleep at night when I'm reading. Sometimes I even actually read out loud, even though there's not always somebody there to listen.
I'm sorry, I just had a funny thought. I imagine you reading really loud and the neighbors banging on the wall.
Yes. Well, it's like when you have to put a little kid to sleep and you're reading them a story and they're awake, and as the grown-up you're falling asleep. And now I realize, because I've had that experience when I was a little kid, I feel like, and my parents were trying to read to me, I think they were falling asleep, and it was hard for them to keep reading and finish the story.
Oh,
so reading out loud actually helps the person being read to and the reader fall asleep.
Huh. Do you want to talk more about this, or would you like to talk about your exercise regimen, or
What I want to do is get some coffee.
You're hungry, aren't you?
I'm also going to introduce another creature to the podcast.
Oh, please do. So I remember Tony used to take me on his membership to the gym in New York City when I was saving up to go to Japan, and that was really, really great of Tony. Wow.
This is Jerry.
Hello, Jerry.
He's a bearded dragon.
Bearded. Wow. When did you get Jerry?
He's named after Jerry Garcia, and coincidentally, I picked him out on August 8th, which is Jerry Garcia's birthday. That was a complete coincidence. I had no idea Garcia's birthday. He has 3 feet. One of them was bitten off when he was a little baby, so he's disabled.
It didn't grow back, so that doesn't happen for this species.
No, that only happens for humans.
What does Jerry eat?
Well, that is actually becoming problematic. The majority of his diet is supposed to be live insects, obviously, and then he eats a very small amount of fruits and vegetables. And he's not been eating very much for the last week or 5 days. He pretty much refuses to eat the crickets. So I bought him some worms one day, which he loves because that's, I guess the worms are like a ice cream or a T-bone steak to him. Maybe he's getting sick of the crickets, but he's not really been eating very well for the past week or so. So it's a little bit worrying, but I assume he knows what he's doing because he's a wild creature. So
make sure that's not the crickets.
Maybe he's doing intermittent fasting or something.
So have you always had an interest in reptiles? I mean, most people have like a furry pet, but you have a scaly one. Or
I've never had an interest in reptiles.
Okay. How did this turn about?
I wanted to get a pet, and I don't really think I can deal with having a dog because I'm not going to walk it at regular hours because I don't have a 9-to-5 job. So, my ex-girlfriend, for some reason got really into bearded dragons, and we talked about it, and I decided, hey, why not? And we went to the pet store and picked one out, and
Great.
and he's very, very calm and peaceful and content. He's not, energetic and lovable, in the same way that a mammal is.
Mm. So does that do anything for you? Like some people say looking at fish relaxes them.
It's relaxing to look at him, yeah.
Is
He
there
doesn't,
recognition? Does he look at you a lot?
yeah, but I think that's wishful thinking.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What do you think about
I mean,
sentient?
wishful thinking. I don't recognize him.
I should really slow down because you've got punchlines packed away.
He's really getting kind of annoyed. It's like, hello,
Really?
me.
Really?
Don't you remember me? No, I'm just kidding. I don't think he recognizes me very much. Maybe he does. He seems to be very content with everybody. I think that's the reason why people like these, why these kind of reptiles are so popular. They're very, they don't do anything aggressive. I don't think they ever bite anyone or anything. They're just happy to be safe and warm and content and protected.
What's his natural habitat?
Australia, or I think maybe Malaysia and places like that too, but I think they're mainly from Australia.
Hmm. You didn't hear me before, but I asked, switching gears now, how's your grandma?
She's good. She's more demented and Alzheimer's than before, but she's mostly in good spirits or mostly happy most of the time. She does cry a lot, but that seems to be from happiness. So she's not usually one of these Alzheimer's patients that's agitated and angry and upset. She's more one that's can be hyper emotional and cry, but it usually seems to be from happiness.
If she's crying when you come, it might not be from happiness, Tony. I'm just kidding. Tony visits his grandmother regularly, don't you?
Yes, regularly. If twice a week means regularly, yeah.
That's very sweet, dude. That's very nice.
Or as I heard a general talking on the NPR about the bases in Iraq, and he said we're under constant intermittent attack.
Is that right?
Constant intermittent. So I do constantly visit her in an intermittent, or intermittently constantly visit her.
So someone else.
It actually is a regular, constant, intermittent schedule.
I see. You want to switch gears again and talk about?
I don't know how to drive stick, so I'm not really good at shifting gears.
What do you think about our political situation? I've been quite upset. If you've seen my posts, you know.
Well, what do you mean by our political situation?
Well, I've been quite worried that we're risking a slipperier slope toward losing a representative democracy.
In America?
Yeah, because with the defiance of subpoenas, to me, what it means is you have one branch exerting more power over the others, and so then the co-equal status of our three branches is off kilter, and Trump is assuming more power, and that's very scary to me.
Right. It also almost seems illogical to have them be co-equal in the first place, since one of them is a singular person, and the other ones are bodies of many people making decisions.
That's a fascinating point. What would you think is a solution? A triumvirate or something in the executive? Should there be three people or four people?
Isn't that's called a junta? What's the system that they have in Switzerland? They have a governing body
people, right?
And a rotating president, and the president doesn't really have any more power than any of the other people. They're just like the person that chairs the meeting or whatever.
Sounds right.
I'm not sure if that's as practical in America.
Right.
It is in Switzerland, but I mean, I don't think there's any possibility of making much change in the actual way that the system works.
Not short of an amendment.
Right. I think that Trump might just be someone that understands the true nature of reality a little bit better than many other people do.
That's intriguing.
That's not to say that he's actually smart or good or bad or this or that, but that he just sort of might intrinsically understand how power dynamics work, or how
I understand what you mean, and thus he can manipulate it.
Right.
That's very fair of you, Tony.
I don't know if it's so much manipulating as it is just, throwing all the spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah, as I said, manipulating, I felt like I was giving him too much credit. I really feel like he's a guy who's jumped into a manual transmission car and doesn't know how to drive it, and everybody else in the car is trying to tell him what to do, and he's sort of saying, fuck it.
Right. For instance, have you ever met someone, Carl, that doesn't seem to have a moral problem with stealing things from time to time?
Yes.
Yeah. Those type of people seem to have a better understanding of how the world really works. It's not, that doesn't mean that it's correct or incorrect or good or bad, but if the if the stakes are so low that nothing bad is really going to happen to you, even if you get caught, I guess their attitude is, why should I pay for it? I mean,
Right.
You wouldn't pay for it if someone expressly told you didn't have to. So their attitude is like, well, if there's no real risk of anything happening to me, even if I do get caught, how is that different from somebody telling me I don't have to?
This is a fascinating subject to me.
If you go into a bar and the bartender tells you don't have to pay for the drink, I've seen people insist on paying for the drink. I was with someone once when this happened, and I said, well, are you crazy? The bartender told he told you it was free. And it just, in their mind, maybe it had to do with the fact that they knew the bartender wasn't the owner of the bar.
Right.
They didn't want the drink for free. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going with this.
No, it's very useful.
But I think maybe Trump just, feels like or realizes that, oh, why not do something? If it's gonna work. If I can get away with it, I can get away with it. Now it's unclear why. It's not unclear, but it's a little bit weird to me why he would even want to be the president again. But it's also unclear to me why Jennifer Lopez would want to perform in the halftime show of the Super Bowl.
Huh. Well, not to change.
Just seemed like a lot of pressure and a lot of work, and like she's already rich and successful, and she did put on a great show. And I do kind of get it that they had a message about girls being able to succeed in music and play the drums, and so that I kind of get. But a little bit, it seems like, well, you've already done this. You've already, like, well, what else is there to achieve by being president for another term? But anyway, of course, once people have power, it's very, very difficult for them to let go of it.
Right. I have two questions. Number one, how does it scale, this moral flexibility? In other words, I could imagine a person who has that good of a handle on what kind of transgressions are not a big deal And I can imagine someone who doesn't have a handle on the slippery slope of doing things that are quote unquote wrong or illegal. And the second question, well, it's more of an answer. I think he wants to avoid not being president because he has a chance of being convicted in the Southern District of New York, tax evasion and other things.
I doubt that has anything to do with it.
Really?
Yeah. He knows that he's never going to actually go to jail.
Why? Because he can pay a powerful enough lawyer to find loopholes in the law.
I don't think you can put an ex-president in jail. I don't think you can put a president in jail. I don't think you can put an ex-president in jail. I mean, I certainly don't think you can put an ex-president in jail who's so as popular as he is.
Right.
I mean, they never put Nixon in jail. They never put Spiro Agnew in jail. They never put any. I mean, I guess they've done it to governors, you know. No, I don't think he's really worried about going to jail. I just think it's hard to let go of power and control once you have it.
Okay.
I mean, people behave the same way when they have, you know, with their spouses.
Right.
Let go of controlling someone or being, you know, whatever. I mean,
even when the relationship's bad, they want to hang on.
Right.
I think it's probably evolutionarily based.
You think that about everything.
How does it scale? So I'll tell you a little story and you can tell me what you think of it. One of my best friends, when we were kids, we went for pizza in the Green Acres Mall in Long Island. And
you mean
stream? Yes. I was also I also witnessed a drive-by there. I had to hit the floor in the Sunrise multiplex. But the first story first, the cashier forgot to ring us up for the drinks, and I started to get up, and my friend said, "Where are you going?" I said, "She forgot to charge us." And he goes, "What are you, an idiot?"
Yeah.
So even if I had allowed us to get away with it, I'm not the kind of person who would have scaled that up to greater crimes later in my life. I don't think. Right. And so maybe it was foolish of me when it's not going to hurt anybody to go and pay for the sugar water when we're just kids with paper routes. Right. Or do you think it's better to, you know, as we say in Buddhism, to increase good habit energy and not create bad habits?
Well, I mean, I feel like that situation happens in life often. And I'm not sure what the correct answer is, but I would have done the same thing as your friend. If someone didn't want to charge me for something, I would, you know, they might not have the permission to do that expressly. Sometimes they do, you know,
and in a show up in the drawer later.
In a bar, often you know, a trusted bartender is allowed to give out a free drink. Right. That's a form of customer appreciation that the owner might permit. In a movie theater, I'm 99% sure the employees do not have permission to give free drinks to customers. Right. However, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, and you might disagree with me here. They may not have permission to do it, but they certainly have the authority to do it. I mean, in that situation, they're the authority.
Yes.
They may be in a strictly legal sense, they may be acting unlawfully. Maybe.
Right.
But they are the ones that have the authority to push the buttons at that moment.
You're talking about personal volition.
No, I'm talking about like they have permission to push the buttons on the cash register and you don't.
Oh, I see.
They're the ones in charge of that situation.
Yeah, maybe she let the drinks go for a reason, and I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, and if she did, then
she may have overcharged somebody else.
No. If she did, then she did it because she thought your friend was cute or whatever reason she did it for. Right. And if she gets caught, then the company is going to fire her for stealing sodas. They're not going to press charges against you for stealing sodas. They're going to fire her because she's the one that stole them. She stole
Yeah,
them and
right,
gave them to you.
right. I think it was a mistake, but that's a very interesting take. Huh.
So I mean, I'm not sure how you can argue with someone at that point. Yes. I guess so you did go back and pay for the sodas?
Yes.
Yeah, you're an idiot.
So
No,
back to
just
Trump.
kidding.
I just want to concur with you on some sort of philosophical level. I've often, you know, how I'm against this presidency, but I've often thought that he was
Well,
doing
I
the
know
right
that
thing.
publicly you've made many statements about how you're against the Trump presidency. In private, I know you tell a different story. But this is a public forum.
Yes. Yeah, no, there are things that I've congratulated him on. You know, the way he handled Kim Jong-un. That was brilliant. I don't care that people say we didn't get enough out of that. He chilled the guy out, unless Kim Jong-un was acting. You know, I thought that took a lot of courage and a lot of, well, I think he is narcissistic, so I don't think it's hard for him to put his arm around Kim Jong-un and show him an iPad and say, you know, this could all be yours, and we won't nuke you if you chill out. You know, but I think a lot of what he does is an act. I think he's a lot smarter than people think. How about, what do you think?
I don't think he's a lot smarter than people think, but I think he might have a different kind of intelligence than you're thinking of, but it depends on what you mean by smart or intelligent.
No, I meant more like what you just said. I just phrased it wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's certainly not very intelligent in terms of like language or,
Right.
you know, um,
He doesn't know how to make friends. He doesn't know how to get people to like him. I think that's our biggest problem, that Donald Trump feels unloved.
well, yeah, I've heard that analysis before, but you know, I don't even know if it's even relevant to talk about intelligence, because then you can break that down to there's so many different kinds of intelligence. He's obviously able to manipulate the situation and get to where he is.
Mm,
He certainly had a lot of help along the way.
right. You know, what's amazing about him, or maybe it's not so amazing. I'm tending to stay in the shallow end here because I'm just looking at everything on a very level playing field. When you're helping me realize it's not very level. But what's remarkable, I should say, is he's like a character in a classic epic tale. Like in Star Wars, you have these emperors and these high spiritual evil masters, and they just dispose of the people who help them get where they're going, and they manage to stay where they are. That's what he's done. You know, he goes through people.
Right, but look what happened to Gaddafi.
Right.
I mean, you can be, you know, you can be the leader that is unquestionably um, the most powerful person in the whole country, and then you can fall. Look what happened to Saddam Hussein.
Right.
So I think it's possible for that to happen to anyone.
Oh, I
Uh,
see.
I mean, I don't think that he handled the North Korean situation very well at all. How is it better or how is it worse than it was before?
Well,
It seems to me that a
I'll
lot of
answer you
people think
very briefly so you can continue.
yeah.
I think maybe my fears were skewed, but I just wanted war to be avoided.
Yes, but war has been avoided until it starts, and it, you know, most of the people who seem to be very knowledgeable about this don't think that it's more or less likely to happen now. I mean, they certainly don't think it's less likely to happen.
Right.
The situation hasn't become less dangerous.
Hmm. What do you think happened between Trump and Kim Jong Un?
I mean, I think Trump is is kind of an idiot, basically.
Right.
And the most important thing is that he's obviously also a bigot.
Yeah, right.
So the fact that he's, you know, very powerful and able to kind of, you know, do all of these crazy things and see what happens, you know, like whatever you talked about with the iPad, or you know, and then a war doesn't break out with North Korea, and then it seems as if he did something wonderful where he created a kind of a crisis there and then averted the war.
Yes. That's true. Yes.
So that's kind of a thing that,
as he recently did with Iraq and Iran.
right. So I guess that's kind of a thing that dictators do. They create a crisis, and then
Right.
they avert the disaster, and then they, you know, claim a victory.
So he's playing us, really.
I don't know if he's doing it intentionally. He's creating the crisis because he's just acting a little bit impetuously. You know, he's doing the same thing that any person who's not well, you know, versed in listening to trusted, you know, advisors who know what they're talking about would do. It does seem intuitive that why not just give the North Koreans prosperity and iPads, and why wouldn't they be happy with that? But obviously that's not going to work, because that's not the reason why those people who are in control want to stay in control and want to keep everybody in the country in the dark about things. It's because they want to be the powerful leader that everybody reveres. You know, they want all the press. They don't care if it's good press or bad press. That's Donald Trump's motto as well, right? That's Roy Cohn's motto, or whoever.
Oh, is that right?
I think so. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, or I don't know. That's all. No, what is that? Andy Warhol? I don't know. That all the press is good press, or all, you know, it doesn't matter if it's positive or negative attention.
Right. You care to mention who you might wish to be in that office soon? Or more interestingly, we could come back to Tony. What does the future hold for Tony? How's your writing? How's your work?
Oh, well, who do I think is going to beat Trump, or have the best chance of beating Trump?
Okay.
It's going to be Elizabeth Warren and Cory Booker, or Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders.
Is Cory Booker still in the race?
No, but he could still be chosen to be the vice presidential candidate.
Oh, I see. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
I don't think that Bernie Sanders will accept the nomination for vice president, though.
Yeah, I think you're right.
He will likely turn it down. I mean, not publicly, obviously, but
right. It's a lame position, right?
I mean, I wouldn't want to do it.
What's that?
I would turn it down too if they offered it to me.
Tony Watkins for vice president. Imagine we could just run for positions like that. And my father wants Klobuchar because he thinks a Midwesterner, good connection to like rural occupations, miners and truckers and
right. But the only problem with that is that you know, trying to find the most like middle of the road person, and trying to find the person that's going to appeal to the widest, you know, offend anyone and appeal to the widest variety of people, is the reason why Hillary Clinton, one of the reasons why she lost in the first place, by choosing who she chose for her running mate. She should have just chosen Bernie Sanders. Maybe he would have said no, though. Maybe he did say no.
Just to clarify, my father, he thinks Biden is the most capable of beating Trump, and he thinks that's the most important thing. And then he
Right.
thinks somebody like Klobuchar would be the running mate. That's what I meant to say. Go on.
Oh, I mean, I don't know if only focusing on who's the most capable of beating Trump, which
Right.
I think automatically also means who's the person who will offend the least,
Right.
the smallest number of the people who are on the fence or undecided isn't necessarily the best strategy.
Isn't?
No,
Right.
it kind of creates a mediocre ticket.
Yeah. Right. Right.
The best strategy is probably figuring out how to get more people to vote.
Like Michael Moore says.
Yeah,
But
I mean, it does seem as if there's people who are, I was just listening to NPR this morning, and they're in Iowa, and they were interviewing people who are Republicans who voted for Bush, who then switched and voted for Obama, and then switched and voted for Trump.
Wow.
And I can sort of, I can see in a weird way the logic of their thinking, but it does seem as if these people must be completely whimsical. So
Or they're all about major change.
that is what they were saying. They were talking about the candidate that brings about the most change. And in that case, then they should want to vote for Bernie Sanders. I mean,
Yeah.
it just seems as if those people are, I don't know if they're a large percentage of the voting population, but it kind of seems like their thought process and their behavior is a little bit erratic.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it also seems as if they're not really too concerned with, the big picture or morality. And the guy very specifically said that he voted for Trump, but right now his family is worse off than it was 3 years ago. So he's now reluctant to vote for Trump again. So that seems like if that's the criterion that people are using to make a decision, whether they are a little bit more or a little bit, less well off than they were 3 years ago, that's kind of absurd.
It's I can't decide whether it's exotelic or endotelic. In other words, it has to do with their bottom line, their income, not any grandiose idealism.
It seems, I mean, I guess for some people there could be a very direct connection to what's going on with the president and the president's policies or whatever. But I'm more well off than I was 3 years ago. That doesn't make me want to vote for Trump. That had nothing to do with Trump. But even if it did have a little bit to do with Trump, why would I want to vote for him just because I'm more well off now than I was 3 years ago?
Do you think?
It just seems absurd.
Would that be different? Well, first of all, I think you're a very moral person, so you'd have to be somebody else. But with this test case, let's just say you're the average Joe who just said what you said. Do you think that would change if you were a stockbroker or an investor? Because I don't think anything Trump has done. Oh, I see. What he's done is made it easier for people to come to your clinic. They have more spending power.
No, not at all. It has absolutely nothing to do with Trump. But even if I was a stockbroker, I don't know. It just seems ridiculous. I mean, it really seems ridiculous. If you had a job that disappeared and then came back, and you went from being unemployed and totally poor to having a huge income, I mean, I guess I could see it. But even in that case, why would you assume that the next president is going to take that away from you?
Right.
it just seems ridiculous how most people, there could be a minor change in one way or the other. Yeah, it
It's
seems
absurd.
ridiculous.
It's selfish, maybe. Tony, I want to be mindful of your time. If you want to continue, we can certainly continue because it's fascinating listening to you. If you want to stop back in again next time,
today's my day off, but I have a hard time imagining that this is tremendously interesting for the people to listen to out there, but maybe it is.
Well, if you ever were to come back again, I'd love to delve into things that are more personal. I mean, we're talking about things outside of you, but I'm getting a good insight into Tony, because usually when we talk, you and I are on our way to the gym, or you're going here and I'm going there, or we're not meeting because our schedules didn't gel when I lived in New York. So to me, it's fascinating. And to me, that means if it's fascinating to me, it might be interesting to other people too. So,
yeah.
You know, if
now,
you want to keep going, you could ask me things about Japan, or I could ask you.
Remind me, what is the name of your podcast?
It's going to be, it's Goodpeople.
And how can viewers learn more about this podcast?
Well, I'm going to advertise it on my Twitter. I'm going to advertise it on my blog. I'll advertise it on Facebook. If it ever takes off and I start to see numbers in viewership, you know, maybe I'll monetize it on YouTube and give it its own channel. Yeah, but right now it's just an altruistic project. It's not about money making. People keep coming to me and saying to me,
no,
"Oh,
I think it's very interesting. You should interview my father next.
I'd love to.
He'll talk for hours.
I know your dad. I like your dad.
Yeah.
Tony, before you go, if you're going, I don't know if you're going. Where are you on the web? Would you like to plug anything you're doing? Is there anything you'd like to say to people?
I don't really do anything. I'm supposed to have an Instagram, social media, whatever thing for my business, but I don't do anything. There's a few pictures of me there.
I remember your business card when I met you in Seoul. I also remember where I was when I met you, and I remember how you were dressed. It made quite an impact on me. Do you remember when we met?
I probably was wearing a suit for some reason.
Silver, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I don't know how I had a silver suit, but I knew you were going to say that. And you were
it was gray. It was gray.
Yeah.
And I was on the computer on the landing in the Goshi one, and you were coming in the door.
Do you remember the password for the Goshi one to get in the front door?
No, I had to call up Paul Kwok one night because I was drunk.
You don't remember the password?
No.
1004. 1004.
Wow. You've always had an amazing memory.
No, that means angel in Korean for some weird reason.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Huh. And I thought 4 was unlucky in Asia, in Korea, in China.
Yes, but 1004 is good. That's
what
why.
Was the biggest takeaway from living in China, Mongolia, and Korea?
Well, first of all, I never lived in Mongolia.
Okay, but you visited for a good spell, and your dad did.
Well, he lives there, yeah. The biggest takeaway is that I have no idea. I'm not going to make a joke. I can't.
Okay.
Think of it. Can we leave that for the next?
Absolutely.
Let me see if there's any other interesting things in my apartment.
Yes. Can you give us a show and tell or a tour of some kind?
No, but I will give a plug to a product that I bought recently that's really interesting and really amazing.
Okay.
The Becca Teardrop Back Support Buckwheat Pillow, shaped like a teardrop, that you put under your back and lie on a hard floor, either this way for the mid back, or this way for the low back, and it decompresses your spine and puts pressure on the right places. And you do it when you're feeling some back pain, or you do it every day, and it's amazing.
Brilliant.
right now.
And if you're in a disaster area, it's an emergency food source.
That's
right?
not an idea. Yeah, I don't have anything else to plug. That was just the first thing I saw.
Okay. Do you want to go get some breakfast?
I'm doing a little intermittent fasting this morning. I've just had coffee, but I'm going to eat some eggs very soon.
I did the. I'm on the plan you gave me, which is extraordinarily easy. 1 set to failure of push-ups every day. Can I add to it, or do you want me to stay on that for any reason?
No, you're going to stick with that for a little while.
Just the push-ups, no dips. I did some
It
dips.
can't be very easy. Failure means, by definition, that failure can't be easy.
No, I mean, when I'm done with that, how much time has passed? How much energy have I exerted? It lasts 5 minutes, and then I feel like I didn't do anything. But it's good. It feels good.
Yeah, we're going to come up with ways to make the push-ups more intense, different angles, things like that.
Okay.
Do you have a person that's not very heavy that can lie on you while you do the push-ups?
I could enlist the help of a girl who works at 7-Eleven who I've been thinking about asking out just for fun. Maybe she.
Yeah, you should enlist the help of a girl that works at 7-Eleven.
But it's just that
you should get to know her a little bit better.
I haven't made many friends here.
Right. You should get to know her a little bit better before you enlist her help. Maybe this is a discussion for off the air.
Yes. Yes.
But yes, you should
Good
absolutely
point.
spend more time hanging out with the people that work in 7-Eleven.
Well, I'll just say this, because your response will be interesting, because this is about you. I've been going really slow, as you know. I haven't dated in Japan, and I've been going in there for 2 years. And when it started out, it was the standard, irashimasu, arigato gozaimasu, blah, blah.
The same person working in 7-Eleven for the past 2 years?
Yeah, now when I go in, it's, konbanwa. She's so happy to see me. So, but it's a friendship thing.
You've been waiting for 2 years to ask the girl from 7-Eleven out on a date?
No, not exactly. It wasn't necessarily that kind of interest, but I've been toying with the idea of just dating girls I become friends with instead of going the route I used to go, which was extreme passion and just insane obsession. And I've really relaxed a lot since you knew me in Korea.
Right. You should not do the obsession thing.
Right. Why not? How's it going with you? Have you got anybody special, or maybe this is also not a soup question?
You should tell the girl that you're dating that as long as the two of you want to be together, you're going to be together.
Brilliant.
And the moment that she says that she doesn't want to be with you anymore,
right,
we'll never see you again.
It's good advice.
Because men have a tendency to stalk women.
Yes, yes.
Right. So I think that's not a bad message to tell someone that, this is a mutual thing. If you don't want to be here, then, I mean, it's unfortunate because maybe I still do, but, if you tell me that you don't want to be here, then you'll never see me again.
Yes, it's very good advice. As you probably know, when I was younger, I really got stuck on women. Up until not too long ago, I was still thinking about some people from the past, but I totally agree with your assessment. It's fair, it's healthy, it's respect, and self-respect. I don't ever want to be that guy again who kept trying. Even if there's a chance to get together, it spoils that because you now look like a hanger-on. It doesn't have the same romantic attraction anymore.
It doesn't have to be so black and white. People are allowed to not be totally sure of what they're thinking or feeling, what they want. But if someone tells you in no uncertain terms that they never want to see you again ever, then the only logical thing to say is, well, in that case, you will never see me again ever.
Right.
I mean, you don't want to ever see me again ever? okay, then I guess you never will.
I think we should do this again, and I'd like to listen to all of your ideas on relationships.
Okay, well, I'm not sure that
Well,
that
maybe
might
not all of them.
partly off the air.
Huh?
Well, maybe that should be partly off the air.
No,
Maybe
I'm not
not.
talking about it. I'm not talking about advice for me. I'm talking about you could probably help a lot of people with the way you run your relationships.
Well, and maybe you could turn this into an advice show if you have enough viewers and listeners.
Sure.
Maybe you should encourage people who are listening to ask for advice.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just at a event, and there was a woman there that I know, and she had a trucker hat that said "shitty advice, $1." So that
What was the event?
it was a festival called Interfusion that I've been to twice, which has dance and massage and workshops and yoga and parties, and I went to a cacao ceremony. It was, and then at the end there's the world's largest cuddle party with maybe 500 to 1,000 people. It was very interesting. Maybe you should organize cuddle parties in Japan. Maybe they have them actually.
They
I
have
think
hugs for free.
you should look it up. Cuddle party. It's probably cuddleparty.org or something like that. Let's see. I'm on my computer right now. Let's see. They're all over the place. It's an organization. It's called cuddleparty.com. And there's facilitators all over the world. And I wonder if there's one. I bet you they have them in Japan. There's a. No, maybe not. Anyway, go to the website,
I'm looking it up now.
cuddleparty.com.
I see it. Cuddle Party Japan.
And see if they have any parties. It's a very interesting, it's not what you think it is. It's not an orgy at all.
I don't think it's an orgy.
At least 50% of the party is a lecture and a workshop about consent and touch and humanity and all this kind of stuff. It actually gets tedious at a certain point. A lot of it is not about what you think it's about at all, because a lot of it's not even about cuddling, right?
Should I let the audience in on the secret that you read minds?
I don't know if that's true.
It says here, Japan's first cuddle cafe lets you sleep with a stranger for 6,000 yen an hour.
Right. Forget about that. You need to go to cuddleparty.com. Don't go to random links.
Right. Cuddle party plus cacao ceremony. Here it is, 2.5 hours. Ebento.
Wait.
Interesting.
Don't look at Cuddle Party plus cacao ceremonies. Go to cuddleparty.com.
Oh, I see.
Don't Google the concept of cuddle parties.
Okay. Cuddleparty.com. Here we go. Oh, I see. Interesting. Of all the people I know, on a scale of 1 to 10, you would be at 12, I imagine. Tell me if I'm wrong. In comfort with this. I know people who would feel a little icky about it, myself included, to a certain degree. But I imagine you would have
because it's not what you think it is. It's a cuddle party and consent workshop.
No, I'm sure.
Yeah. Here's one on February 22nd in Brooklyn. Why does everything have to be in Brooklyn?
Because Brooklyn's a cool place. I miss New York, pal.
That's $25.
So before we close, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. Because I want to be mindful of your time, or you won't want to come back. It's already been an hour, 14 minutes, and 34 seconds.
Oh.
Do you have a bucket list, Tony?
No. Should I make one?
No, not necessarily. Now, could I ask you a couple of questions, which I don't think will embarrass you, but I'd like to see where it goes with your answer. It has to do with things that I've seen you, situations I've seen you in. It's not bad at all, but they were funny things to me. And I want to ask you, what was that about? I want to see what you say.
Yes. Are you asking me permission to continue with your line of
Yes.
questioning?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So when we were in Korea, I remember
No
you
comment.
had what?
No comment.
You had a Sesame Street school bag. I thought that was hilarious. What was that about?
Oh, I don't know. I probably bought it somewhere and thought it looked silly or, eccentric or whatever.
Okay. I have nothing against these things. I'm not judging you. I just think you're a fun guy, and I want to expose you to these things and see if there's any intellectual connection to these things having been done. The orange pants.
I had orange pants in
Korea. I never knew anybody to wear orange pants before. You're the first guy.
What kind of orange pants was I wearing?
I think they were Lee's. Lee.
They were like jeans.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, why would you want to? I like to be colorful. Why would you want to wear black all the time? Especially
totally agree.
At night or in the wintertime, when you're walking down a dangerous street in America too, but especially in Korea.
Right.
You want to stand out.
Well, what do you think it is that makes me want to go silently? Like, I don't know if you could see it, but I have some pendants up there, which you get at temples. And when you shake them, they make noise. And inside, whenever I consider getting one because it's Buddhist or interesting or cultural, I think, yeah, but then people are going to hear me coming. What's causing that?
I mean, I don't know, but you should always try to avoid getting hit by a car or a motorcycle when outside.
Good
in
advice.
Any country, but definitely in Korea. I'm not sure how bad it is in Japan, but in America, definitely. You want to avoid getting killed on the road. So being bright or noisy is not a bad thing.
Right. Do you want to hear something funny?
Yes.
I'm not doing this now, but a few months ago, my stress level was higher than it is now with how people tend to walk in train stations here. I actually bought a bicycle bell. I was ringing it as people seem to be fixed on crashing into me. I would ring. You look like you're thinking, yeah, he needs help.
Well, I don't know if it would work. Would it work?
It did work, but I stopped doing it. Well, number one, because the bell broke, but number two, because people jumped because they know that sound to be the sound on bicycles here. So they thought there was a bicycle behind them.
Yeah, are people are bumping into you because they're making a beeline for something and they don't care what's in their way?
Don't get me started. I've actually written a comedy bit about this, but I haven't performed it. Not on the street, but in the train stations, they tend to walk with a vengeance. They just, you're constantly dodging people. It's amazing. I guess what they would say is it's because they were raised in this very crowded city. They're in a hurry, so on. But it's funny because when they get out of the train, they take their time. It's frustrating.
But don't you think that there's a certain efficiency to this approach of walking around in the train station?
Again, with the logic and intelligence, Tony, I think you're probably right. And that's why it's survived.
Right. I mean, it's kind of like waiting online.
How so?
Well, it is an efficient way for everybody to get their goods and services, to form a line.
Right. Okay.
It's certainly not the best way for you to do it. The best way for you to do it would be to go straight up to the front.
Like we experienced in Korea at times, right?
Well, like you might experience it anywhere. But
yes. Always fair, Tony.
As an individual, the best way to do it is to go right up to the front and demand that you get seen immediately.
Yes.
But as a group, the best way to do it is to form a line.
Yes.
So as a group, maybe the best way to do it is for everybody to move quickly and dodge around, and know that the other people are equally well equipped to dodge around.
Tony, you're a world citizen.
And the collisions are not particularly important because it's not like cars colliding.
Right.
So you don't need to do so much signaling and cautious, whatever, because you can afford a few collisions here and there.
Yes.
I don't know. Are you getting hurt by these collisions?
No, but
You would be if you were very old or disabled. You would be getting hurt.
Yes, and I have people stepping on my feet more than I care for, and I
Yeah.
don't wear my NASA jacket in the train stations anymore unless I reverse it because I don't want the patches getting rubbed off. But it's okay. Japan has a lot of charms.
Right. I mean, I'm sure there's ways that you could avoid it other than the bell.
Yeah, and I don't do that anymore.
Right. For instance, you could wear a hat with lights on it.
I think we're moving into stand-up material here.
Right. You could also wear a full clown outfit with clown makeup. And then people would probably notice you a little bit more.
A little bit more. Have you seen
Right.
how people dress here? You're really free to be anything you want in Japan. It's amazing. You've been here.
Yes.
When are you going to visit me? When are we going to hang out?
I can come visit you someday. I've become a capitalist, imperialist business person now.
Yes, you're a professional.
I can't really take weeks and weeks off and fly around the world and do those things, but maybe at some point in the not too distant future, I will be.
Your bed. That's your bed. I'll sleep on the couch. The couch here is enormously comfortable.
My bed is over there.
Oh, you got a proper bed now. Very nice.
Yeah, I have a bed and I have a couch.
Oh, beautiful.
And I have a separation between my main room of the apartment and the kitchen. Do you want to see that?
You always had that. You had a big bookshelf.
No, the bookshelf is kind of gone.
Oh, you have a wall?
Now there's a main separation, and that's it.
Oh, very nice. Kanagawa no tsunami. Hokusai Katsushika-san. Very nice.
That's a famous Puerto Rican painting.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Now, Carl, I recommend that you, in order to make more friends in Japan, that you go to a board game cafe and you start playing board games. In particular, maybe you can get into this game.
Splendor. It looks like he's sniffing coke from here. What's going on there?
It's a gem.
Oh, okay. Did you see the gem cutter?
Uncut Gems?
Uncut Gems, yeah.
I saw Uncut Gems, and I just saw Good Time the other day.
What's Good Time? I don't know that one.
Good Time is the movie that the same guys who made Uncut Gems made before they made Uncut Gems. That's their first movie, and it's equally disturbing and anxiety-producing, but even more raw and gritty, and like you would like Good Time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Adam Sandler, so I enjoyed that, but yeah, I found it anxiety-ridden.
A lot of people really don't like those movies and really don't like Uncut Gems. It's definitely not pleasant to watch. And it does kind of make you question, what is the purpose of watching a movie if it's unpleasant?
Well, I didn't know it was going to continue on that bent. I think next time it might be harder because I might know the tenor of it.
Right. I mean, there's nothing particularly redeeming about almost anything or any character in the movie.
Right.
With the possible exception of his wife.
Yes.
But even, I mean, there's really nothing. Yeah.
Right.
Although, that's actually, no, I take that back. That's actually not true about Uncut Gems. It's more true about Good Time. Uncut Gems, all of the characters are
Well, his family seems okay.
No, all of the characters, there's something likable about them. There's something very likable about Adam Sandler and about his girlfriend and what happens with their relationship in the end. You realize that they really have a lot of like fondness and affection for each other.
Right.
You're rooting for them at the end. You're definitely rooting for them.
I was impressed when it seemed like he was going back to his wife. To me, that represented his lack of self-control. But if it's because he really loved her, well, that's a different story.
No, I don't think it's because he really loved her. It's because he was...
No, the girlfriend.
Oh, the girlfriend.
Yeah.
No, he really loved the girlfriend.
Right.
Okay, I wouldn't say love. They had a lot of affection for each other. And in the end, I was rooting for him and the girlfriend. But not to give a spoiler of what happens, but you know, the movie is about everything going wrong for everybody at every step of the story. And Good Time is the same, but it's even more anxiety producing and more, you know, like awful stuff happening again and again and again. Good Time, there's really no well, no, there's one or two characters that you're rooting for in Good Time.
Let me ask you a question about Gem. What is it called? Gem. I don't know why I have a mental block with this movie's name. The name of this movie.
Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems. It wasn't completely clear to me that he had an obsession that he couldn't stop until the very end when he had those gangster types and his cousin locked in the foyer, the lobby. All through the movie, I thought maybe this is going to go somewhere better, and in the end, I thought, oh, he's pathological. Did you have that take on it? He can't see. He's delusional. He can't see when he's overstepping his, his possibilities, his bounds, his, it's unchecked.
Yeah, he couldn't imagine that it was going to go as wrong as it did go.
Right.
A lot of people wouldn't if you were in his position. The person he owed money to was a relative of his.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, no, I actually, especially because those guys started watching the game, I thought that they were softening up, even though they were locked in there. Especially now that they stood to maybe cash in with him to some degree. Maybe not. I don't know.
It was, from the beginning, I had a feeling that he was completely a pathological addicted gambler, certainly. Well,
Tony,
this has been a wonderful discussion about the history of Judaism and how it's influenced our modern political system.
I agree. And
I think that your comments, particularly on the 14th century scholars, were rather insightful and quite surprising, actually.
Well, I very much appreciated your discussion of the Temple of Judea, the influence of Caesar on the Jews and the head rabbi.
Oh, I mean, his influence cannot be overstated. I mean, between the salad and the casino, really, Caesar has been remarkable in influencing the.
I broke.
And yesteryear.
I broke. Tony, you're a genius.
Oh, and let's not forget the dressing. It's not only the salad; it's the dressing as well.
Well, too much anchovies is a bad idea.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean that's more. That actually comes from the influence of the Crusaders. That's post-Roman.
I could tolerate the raw chicken after the sacrifices, but if we get into pork, I'm out of there.
Yes. If you put kosher salt on pork or anything like that, it makes it kosher. So you don't actually have to worry about that. Right? That's why it's called kosher salt.
Is that right? Get out.
Yeah, of course. You need to study your theology and Jewish law. That's why it's called kosher salt.
You know, I do think I should read the whole Old Testament sometime.
You can probably get an audiobook of it.
That's a good idea.
If you want to read a book that I've not read, let me recommend a book to you that I've not read.
Is there one? I think
Yes.
you're lying, Tony.
I'm going to recommend to you a book that I've not read.
By the way, I love your room divider. Good choice.
Yeah, I like it too. I really am going to recommend a book to you that I've not read. I'm going to find it. Hold on.
Mein Kampf.
Find the section that's about philosophy and junk like that. Here we go. I think you would be interested in this book, despite the fact that I've not read it.
What is it?
I need to figure out how to reverse the camera here. Hold on a second.
You did it. I was looking at the floor. Ah. Confucius, the intellect, right? No. Oh, Socrates, Buddha, Confucius, Jesus. Oh, that looks great. Who's the author? I can't see. A different eyewear. Jasper. Carl Jasper. Oh, he has a good first name. Carl Jasper. And after Socrates, Buddha, Jesus, the other ones, who does he do next? This is what I'd like to know. Hey, that looks great.
So that's the book that I'm going to recommend to you. But, Carl,
Yeah.
if you want to read a book that's one of the greatest experiences I've ever had with literature in my life, and I'm going to recommend something incredibly corny right now.
That's okay. James Clavell's Shogun. Yes, I think you recommended it to me once before, actually.
The greatest and most exciting books you'll ever read in your life.
Really? I should read it. I'm here.
Yep. Very, I don't know what people's opinions is of him. He is an old dead white man writing about, Asia, but
Okay.
And then here's the other book that you should read.
Death in the Afternoon. Is that Hemingway?
Yes.
No. Okay.
Yes.
That's a good one.
Oh my God, it's so good.
I'm going to write it down right now, Tony Watkins.
And here's a book that you shouldn't read, and I'm going to go out on a limb here because even though everybody loves this book, I don't understand. I couldn't get into it at all.
Oh, Stranger in a Strange Land. I've tried to read that. I like Heinlein, but I never could finish it. I got bored.
I got bored after about 50 pages.
Yeah. I did like his short story, By His Bootstraps. I read it in my early teens. That was good. Jesus, Socrates, Buddha, Jesus, Plato. Oh, Just Kids, Patty Smythe. Somebody else was telling me about her the other day.
Great book.
My friend Bob Diefendorf mentioned Patty Smythe. He said she's very down to earth. She has an Instagram.
I think it's Patty Smith, but...
Oh, is it Smith? It looks like Smith. I just thought she pronounced it Smythe.
Those are my books that I'm recommending for your listeners today.
Great. I've heard of Carl Jaspers before.
Here's the other book I would recommend everybody read.
Anton Chekhov's short stories. Okay. I was going to give some recommendations, but I won't. This is the Tony interview today, so I'll give them if someone ever interviews me.
Here's the other book that I'll recommend that everybody should read.
Candide, yes. I read most of that once. I should
Carl,
finish it.
how is it possible for you to read most of this? The book is only about 45 pages long.
I'm an amazing guy.
It's 100 pages, actually.
Voltaire, very important person. Hey, do me a favor. Tell me his real name.
Well,
Sure,
I
it's
don't
on
think he was a real person.
Voltaire.
I'm just kidding. Yes, I don't. What do you mean? Isn't that his real name?
No. He had. I think that was his nom de plume or an assumed name. He had a different name.
Morris Goldberg?
Something like that. I think it was Horace Watkins. Tony, can I before we end, can I reveal the origin of your interesting name? Or could you?
No, you can reveal it.
So Tony Watkins is named after Tony Curtis. the treasure of the Sierra Madre. Was that good?
Yeah, that's a great book.
What was the most influential book you've ever read, if you could actually say that? Goodnight Moon. Who wrote that? That sounds familiar. Margaret Weiss Brown. Pictures by Clement Hurd.
I'm just kidding. I don't think that's the most influential book. But
No, I actually didn't think that was what your answer was. Well, Tony, it's been fascinating. I hope we do this again. I have to take a shower because I have to be to work tomorrow. And,
I don't even know what this book is. I don't even know why I have this book.
What book is? Oh, that one. Ken Bruin, Immunity. Immunities? Immunito. Immunicio. It's hard to see the subtitle.
Here's a good book. If people want to read a great book, this is such a good book.
Cosi fan tutti. Michael Dibdin. What's the subtitle? I'm wearing substandard glasses right now. Oh. A Zen mystery. Interesting.
Yeah, Aurelio Zen.
Have you read Eckhart Tolle? Somebody gave me one of his books recently.
No, I don't even know what that means.
The Power of... You don't know Eckhart Tolle?
No. I'm against him.
But you like Murakami?
Yes, I read all of his books.
Wow. That's impressive.
Except for the nonfiction.
Tony, I have to go, and I want you to get out there and enjoy your day off. Would you read one more haiku for us?
One of mine or one from the...
One of yours.
I have this book. I don't know if people want to read this book. It's 400 pages long.
What's this? Oh my gosh. 400 pages.
Yes, the male version of this book is a one paragraph.
Book.
One paragraph.
One paragraph. Very good. Very good. Are you still writing comedy?
Exactly one paragraph. I will read another haiku. Carl, this was an interesting show, but I think that we should make another one where maybe it's just reading haiku.
Great idea. I've been thinking of getting back into my poetry. That's why I've put this shelf behind me with all my diaries.
Okay, here's one. Colorful flowers, fallen petals lie muted. Voice, breath, air, no sun.
Is that yours?
Yeah, I can read you. I can recite a poem from memory, but it's not one that I wrote.
Okay. Well, do me a favor. Read your last one more time. It was nice.
I feel like I want to read it because if I get part of it wrong.
Oh, you want to stop there? Okay.
No, I remember it. I remember it, but I don't want to forget the last. Here we go. Colorful flowers, fallen petals lie muted. Voice, breath, air, no sun. And people can buy my book on Amazon.
What's the address? Or
Amazon.
What should they look for?
Amazon.com.
Okay. And Tony Watkins?
Well, yes, or just put the name of the book in, Bony Landmarks, a book of haiku.
Okay. When I post this, I'll put the link. What I also like to do is I may put some highlights about what we talked about, but I'll put the link definitely. Do you have a Twitter that you want to announce or anything else?
No, but I want to read the next poem.
Oh, please do.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
Who is that?
That is Invictus.
Ah,
That is the poem called Invictus, which
yes,
was
you read that to me once before when I was in New York.
yeah, which is Nelson Mandela's, or was Nelson Mandela's, I guess, his favorite poem, the one that he recited or had memorized and recited every day while he was imprisoned on Robben Island.
That was fantastic.
I would recite another one of the hundreds of poems that I have committed to memory, but we only have time for one today.
Let's have another session where we just do poetry. That would be fantastic.
Okay, that is also the only poem that I've committed to memory.
I've only committed my own to memory. That's something of a tragedy. I should commit to memory someone else's.
Yeah. I would like to create a program of memorizing one poem every week or every month. Like a poetry, like the ice bucket challenge, but poetry memorization challenge. Much better than just throwing a bucket of ice water over your head.
Right.
However that works. Or dunking your head in it, I guess was the idea. Poetry memorization challenge.
Cool.
So Carl, if you would like to participate in this, I invite you to seek out a poem that you would like to memorize, and I will memorize it with you.
Okay. I'll send you a suggestion, and why don't you send me one and we can both decide.
Okay.
Or are you saying that I pick one and you pick one and we do them both?
No, we do one at a time. I'm saying you can pick one, the first one.
Oh, okay, fine.
You don't have to do it right now.
No, I know. I'm just making notes from today so I don't forget some of the highlights. And where did you say I should send that money for the arms deal? Or was it the cocaine?
No.
I'm just kidding, of course. Okay, man. Cool, Tony. Tony, thanks very much. Any last words?
Well, the most important thing is that you need to have some sign-off music.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how well edited this is, but
Beautiful.
if you can think of what the sign-off song is right now, I will have it play right now.
Oh.
Alexa, play Mr. Sun by Don Carlos.
Okay.
Mr. Sun by Don Carlos, starting now on Amazon Music.
Nice. Hey, that's a good one. Very nice. So thank you, Tony Watkins, coming live from New York City. This is Carl in Tokyo.
New York City.
Join us again
Here with the Good People podcast. We talked about a lot of things today, including the nature of reality, the influence of 14th century Judaic
scholars, rabbinical scholars,
political system,
yes,
literature, haiku, back health, spinal compression and decompression, board games such as Splendor,
Blender.
workout regimens that Carl might be involved in. And let's just talk about one more thing.
What would that be?
Alexa, Volume 3. Now that we've got a little bit more of an awareness of how important our immune systems are, to get some immune support products such as this mushroom combination, or any way that you want to support your immune system and strengthen it. And just think about your immune system.
Tell me what that is. I couldn't exactly read it. It looked like it said Mayu Shield. Myco Shield spray. Very nice.
It's not the only thing that boosts your immune system, and for all we know, it might not even work.
You're hilarious. What's this now?
It's unlikely to weaken your immune system, and I just encourage everybody to think about their immune system. Oh my God, Carl, I have gallium here. Oh no.
Gallium.
Do your viewers know about gallium?
I don't know. I don't know about gallium myself. So what is it?
Gallium is a metal, and this is apparently 99% pure gallium. It's a solid, like pretty much all metals, except for, of course, the two things that are not solid at room temperature with the two elements, Carl, which are?
Water and
Water's not
air. I don't know.
Mercury and bromine.
Ah, right. Okay.
But gallium at 90, something degrees becomes a liquid. So of course it's a solid and it's rather heavy here. But if you hold it in your hand long enough, it will become liquid. It will turn into like a molten metal. And then you can pour it into your hands and play with it, And
you
then
don't consume it, do you?
You could. I don't think you would die, but I doubt it would be a good idea.
Oh, I thought you were talking about vitamins and
No,
supplements.
it's very heavy. It's such an interesting, because it seems like such a small thing, but it's heavy.
Do you remember Korean people taking silver pellets?
Yeah, you can take a very small amount of silver. Silver is good for you, I think. That's supposed to be good for your immune system too.
You know what causes brain plaque and excess of metallic minerals?
Yeah, but there's metallic minerals in everything we need copper and we need all kinds of stuff.
Right.
We even need fluoride, as far as I've been told, but just, not necessarily the ones that they put in the water.
Listen to this song again. Just ask me to repeat.
Alexa, please be quiet. I'm talking to Carl.
Okay, Tony, let's sign off and
Alexa,
let's make
Do
sure
you
we
know
do
who
this
Carl
again.
is?
Coral is a non-governmental organization based in Oaxaca, Mexico that provides support to the local deaf community.
No. Alexa, do you know who Carl is?
Coral is a non-governmental organization based in Oaxaca, Mexico that provides support to the local deaf community.
Is that all I am to you, Alexa?
Alexa, tell me something interesting.
Actor John Cazale, who portrayed Frito Corleone in The Godfather, had roles in just 5 movies, but he really knew how to pick them. Every one of those films was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Picture.
Alexa, tell me something weird.
Renowned Pennsylvania groundhog Punxsutawney Phil predicted an early spring when he did not see his shadow Sunday morning. Only 20 times in the 134-year history of Groundhog Day has the critter's reaction signaled there would be less than 6 weeks left to winter.
There you go.
Very interesting. How's the weather there, Tony?
Alexa, what's the weather?
Right now in New York, it's 46 degrees Fahrenheit with cloudy skies. Today's forecast has intermittent clouds, with a high of 56 degrees and a low of 42 degrees. Hope you have a good Monday.
There you go.
How about a view out the window before we go?
Oh, wait, you mean I got to put the shades up?
Wow, beautiful day. Sorry about that. I was trying to cue up some music from YouTube. Wow, what a nice day, Tony. Huh.
It's always a nice day here in America.
Yes. It's
We
dark
only
here
have-
in Japan.
We only have nice days. That's the American way.
Tony, we did 1 hour, 52 minutes. Unbelievable. I'll probably leave this
I believe
in its
it. It felt like
entirety.
4 hours.
It did, didn't it? I hope it was as fun for you as it was for me.
It was a lot of fun, and I like this idea. I'm going to give you some recommendations of other people to interview.
Excellent. Send them to me and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, I have a lot of people that probably want to would get interviewed by you and would enjoy it tremendously. Carl, it's been lovely talking to you.
Likewise, buddy.
It's time to sign off. I will come visit you in Japan.
Excellent. I will leave you with Ebis. Who is that? This is Ebis or Yebis. And this is my girlfriend.
You are in charge, so it is your job to disconnect the call, because this is your.
Yes. All right then, Tony. Have a nice day, buddy. Thank you for joining me.
You're welcome, Carl. You're the best. See you later.
All right, Tony. Likewise. Be good.